I'd like to call to order the Town of Hebron Board of Selectmen regular meeting of September 25th, 2025 at 7 p.m. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Additions and changes to the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to add one addition. It came in late on Friday, so it wasn't in the packet, but it's time sensitive. It's a grant for the registered voters for early voting. And it's due 30th, and we're not going to meet again before that. So it's a pretty straightforward application. So if we could add that under the last item, physical, what were we going to add that under? Number
9I.
9I.
9I. Sounds good. Helps. Register our grant.
You said that to us too, right, George?
Yes. Yeah, we I got it. All that. Any other additions or changes to the agenda? All right. With that, it will bring us to item number 4, public comment. This section of the agenda is reserved for persons in attendance who wish to briefly address the Board of Selectmen. The board requests that a person's comments be limited to a single period lasting 3 minutes or less. While the board respects the right of the public to provide comment, this time is not intended for open discussion or board response. Residents who wish to request a dialogue should make arrangements to do so through the town manager's office or the board chair. Persons wishing to comment should type comment and your name in the chat box, and you will be recognized online. With that, we will start with public comment.
I'd like to make a public comment.
Please.
Oh,
Did we get rid of the X on the floor?
yeah.
You get to stand by Dory.
Right here?
Right here's good.
Okay, perfect.
And just please state your name and your address.
Absolutely.
In the record.
Okay, Michael Bollier. I live at 46 Cannon in Amsden, so I'm a resident in Hebron. I'm also the current president of the Hebron Lions, and I serve as the superintendent of Fair Entertainment. And I just want to talk a little bit about the history of the club. The Lions International is the largest service organization in the world, and the Hebron Lions is one of the largest fundraising clubs in the state. We're an all-volunteer organization in the service of others and in our community. 2024 alone, we donated in excess of $200,000, with 51% of that right here in Hebron. Douglas Library, Volunteer Fire Department, HIHS, AHM, just to name a few. We donated $30,000 to the Hebron Historical Society for the repair and restoration of the old town hall basement. When there's a need, there's a lion. When the pandemic happened and Ram needed picnic tables, we donated ours built by our members. They held the graduation at the Lions Fairgrounds as well as the prom. We were happy to do it. We'll do it again. Well, last Friday, there was a piece in the River East that made allegations that we're exploiting animals at the fair. And many of us at the Lions took it pretty personal. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about that. Before we decided to bring the sea lions in, I actually called the owner of the show to talk about where they get the animals. And I was happy to learn that they don't go out in the ocean and throw a net over a sea lion and bring it to shore and try to tame it. These animals are either part of an injury by a boat, predation, or they're very susceptible to eye infections. So they've gotten very young. They're rehabbed. And because they're pack animals, they're not really eligible to go back to the pack. If you think about a wolf, if you've got a wolf pup, you wouldn't go to Yellowstone and say, hey, there's a bunch of wolves. Have at it. So it's similar with the sea lions. And I just want to say, if there were concerns about our fair entertainment, we would have been more than happy to discuss them rather than read about them in the River East. So, our club volunteers, we work very hard And I took it personally because I work hard on the entertainment. We work our butts off at those grounds. Our club has always tried to work very well with the town manager, the zoning department. We're in day-to-day contact with the fire chief and the fire marshal during the fireworks and the fair. And we give a lot to our small community. Many of you may not know, or maybe some of you do, we actually put on the fireworks show. We fund it, we do all the work in cooperation with the fire department and the fire marshal. But all I want to say is that all of our town officials, let's just talk rather than make allegations about things because maybe there was an email or there was a social media post. I read the social media post, how the sea lions are kept in a trailer during the whole show. Not true. People will come up during they perform for 20 minutes. And people will come up and go, oh my God, they're in the pool. Yeah, they kind of come and go as they please. So I just want to say, Tiffany, Keith, Danny, Sean, if you want to talk about any issues with the Lions, I'm the president, set up some time. Let's talk. Let's seriously, any issues. When it makes sense, we'll collaborate. We'll partner even. So I just want to come here and represent the Lions and myself and say, let's keep the dialogue open. So thanks for your time. I'm super busy. I would love to stay for the meeting, but Keith knows I'm super busy. Hey Sue, I saw you wanted to say hi before, but thanks for letting me speak. I know it took a little bit longer than 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please.
My name is Joy Lopachevsky. I've lived in town for it'll be 44 years the day after Thanksgiving. Me, actually, for two things. First one is regarding veterans. My fellow veterans and I are asking the town to invoke the 2-acre rule. Does anybody know what that is? Okay. Many other municipalities have done this and they have it in place, and I think it's time for Hebron to do the same thing. The other thing I want to mention is, and I'm sure most of you know that the state has put out new laws for motorized vehicles, e-bikes. Unfortunately, it does nothing for us that walk the airline trail. If anybody's ever walked that trail, these bikes go past you. Sometimes they're doing 40 miles an hour. They give you no warning. And some of us who are hard of hearing and have PTSD from other issues, it scares the out of anybody walking a trail when somebody hollers from 6 feet behind and they're coming up at 20 or 30 miles an hour. On your left. There is a state ordinance that requires an audible device on your e-bike or bicycle, whatever. Nobody adheres to it. They just holler at you when they're right up on top of you. Somebody is going to get hurt. And we need an ordinance to slow these people down. I think an ordinance stating something that when passing pedestrians, walking speed only. That's it. Thank you. I'm not going to see it.
Any other public comment?
Hi, I'm Sue Smallage. I live at 282 Skinner Lane in Hebron. I'm here to support the tax abatement for the affordable housing that is being built. I think that this, and I did write a letter, I don't know if you have seen it. It's a huge benefit to our town that we need to welcome people who can't afford to live in our town. And I heard from the director of the Colebrook, and he said that he can't keep people on assistance, nurses' aides, because it's too expensive to keep driving here. And then if something goes wrong with their car, then they don't show up. So I just think for our worker working people in town and outside of town who will bring new things to our town. This has been a well-planned procedure that's gone through to get this to the place that it is. And what they need right now is a tax abatement from the town of Hebron. They have water that they are willing to share with the town of Hebron. That's a huge benefit to the town of Hebron because they're required to build 2 wells. And they can take care of everything they need on one, but there will be a second well there. This is just huge. And that well will not be dug if the affordable housing doesn't go up. And so there are many good reasons and many good items that would benefit the town of Hebron. But mostly, I just think we need affordable housing. It's important to our town to do that. I'm on the Housing Advisory Committee, and to meet our 10% goal for 2027, we need this housing. We need it in Hebron. And these are the people who have done the work for us and gotten it all together. And I say, please consider it carefully and please approve that tax abatement for that housing. Thank you.
Hi, Kevin Tulamary, 110 Kinney Road, and I'd like to thank the Board of Selectmen for all your efforts on a regular basis. And I would also like to thank and welcome Father Ron and the St. Peter's, and also support the tax abatement for the CDC Commons housing. It's been a lot of really high quality planning and efforts to support the community, support the environment, and to build this project in a really responsible manner. I think it will add to the diversity and the integrity of Hebron. So I'm really happy to see that, and I hope it moves forward with as much support from the town as possible. I'd also like to thank the Department of Public Works Action Committee, who will be making their presentation shortly, for their efforts and diligence in creating a plan, a workable plan that can keep public works at Old Colchester Road. And I think you'll see the really tremendous progress that's being made towards that. And I just hope that the Board of Selectmen, and I'll also address the residents of Hebron. Let's get behind the efforts that are moving forward and keep this project going in a positive direction. Thank you.
I am not my name is Ron Kolonowski. I'm not a legal resident, but I might as well be. I spend all my time here. But I represent St. Peter's Episcopal Church. And I just wanted to share two things on the tax abatement issue. The first has to do with why. And I'll tell you, our church was resistant about doing this to begin with, until a man stood up in our parish meeting and we were having this conversation. And he said, I've been a resident of Hebron for 51 years. Nelson Moore, you know Nelson Moore. And he and his wife needed to downsize because of health issues. There was no place for him to go, not anywhere. And so he ended up relocating to Vernon, and it broke his heart. So he said, had this been here, I would never have had to leave the town that I love. So that's the first thing I wanted to say is it's for people who live in this community too, as well as those who work here. Secondly is to kind of build on what Sue talked about with the wells. When we went to Connecticut Water, and Connecticut Water said, we cannot provide you with water, most people would have walked away and said, this project is dead, completely dead. And so I said, God's not done with us yet. And I meant it. And so thanks to a geologist in the church, we have found, we believe, a larger size aquifer right below the cemetery. And then we went to the town and we did a moonshot. And the state gave us $2.1 million to build this community well system. And understand, the only reason they gave us this money was not to put more water into Hebron's system. It was because we were building affordable housing. So anything that puts this project at risk, and the margins are very slim, means that we could lose the grant money as well. So that's all I have to say.
Rob Mangiafico, 230 Jagger Lane here in Hebron. I'll be brief because I know we have a pretty packed schedule. I just want to thank the board for the hard work and working with Common CDC to find a path forward for the desperately needed affordable housing options here in Hebron. None of this is easy, and it's breaking new ground in our town. We're learning something new each day, as are you. And it can be scary to talk about long-term commitments and long-term tax agreements, but it's something that's needed. The need for the long-term tax abatement agreement is due to this project being required to operate as affordable housing for 40 years, and the financing to be over those 40 years as well. It allows the organization to show to its lenders, like the Department of Housing and the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority, that there's control over the expenses of taxes. The state, which will be providing millions of dollars in grants to fund the development of this project, in choosing which developments get awarded these funds, looks for both the organization and the municipality, i.e. the town of Hebron, to be working together to support the successful building and operation. And a long-term tax abatement is a crucial step in seeing this become a reality. The state will also be providing support for the operation of the development through some rental assistance vouchers as well. The town of Hebron, its government, formally recognized the need for at least 75 units of affordable housing through its study that was done a few years ago. This partnership between Common CDC and the town, I believe, is the best path forward to help residents who live and work in Hebron, who may not be able to afford a home, an opportunity to live here, or remain in Hebron as they downsize, as Father Ron had just mentioned. And with fully accessible units, it's just another option in our town for those in the community who may be disabled. The project has won the support of its residents, of town officials, and local and statewide representatives on both sides of the aisle. This type of broad level support and opportunity is rare these days, and I hope a path forward can be found to make this a reality here in Hebron. I can't imagine a better time to get this done, as I know this type of work is difficult at best. Thanks.
Any other public comment? Any comment online? All right. That moves us to item number 5. Good to know.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, our resident trooper had a last minute funeral she had to attend, so she could not make tonight's meeting. She apologizes. I had to put her on the next agenda.
No. That brings us to item number 6, appointments and resignations. Dan, are you ready for the motion?
Sure.
Sure.
Move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen accept the resignation of Angela Orrington from the Commission on Aging with regret and thanks for her years of service.
Any discussion? Well, I know Angela, and I know she's a hard worker and volunteers a lot in town. And I personally would like to thank her for all of her years of service on the Commission on Aging. She will be definitely missed. With that, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay, or abstentions. Dan?
Dale Larson, aye.
Sean?
John Fitzgerald, aye.
Tiffany?
Tiffany Tealy, aye.
Keith Pettit, aye. Thank you very much. That brings us to the town manager's report.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. So we're planning a dog park grand opening for Saturday. And I know a few of the selectmen have responded back that will be in attendance with Greg from Parks and Rec. And the local veterinarian has donated a bunch of things to assist and help us with that. Craig's gotten some dog frisbees with the logo on it, and there's pamphlets with rules and regulations that will be in place out there. And then the directions were given to us from the state regarding the well will be posted, and then we will unlock the well. It'll be open as well.
It'll be posted as non-potable water.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
We still continue to have union negotiations. They're ongoing. They changed the date to Tuesday, I believe, after Columbus Day, right? Yeah. We're going to do interviews for the revenue collector position. That'll be Monday, tomorrow. Department heads are working on their CIP requests. We're putting the rolling stock 10-year plan together for all the town's rolling stock. That was also something that was in the manager's goals to have all that available within a 10-year look out. with fiscal numbers for each year. So we're working on that. I think that's pretty close to being completed. We're just adding a fire apparatus. We're still working on the audit. We continue to move forward with that. And as I stated earlier, today we're already starting to work on the next agenda. And this one was most of the time this week to get this ready. And that's it.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. That brings us to item 8A. ARPA, other than the dog park, which am I missing something?
There are neighbor.
Other than the dog park, which is opening this Saturday at 9:30. No other ARPA updates, right?
No, we had that asterisk, but we are working on that. We're working on the CIP and the ARPA to finalize the numbers and give you an audit and everything on it. So most of these projects are wrapping up.
But we'll be well with under the reserve.
Yeah.
Awesome. And that brings us to 8B. The Department of Public Works Action Committee would like to present to the Board of Selectmen.
My name is David Rose. I'm a member of the DPW Action Committee, particularly I'm the chairman of the Communications Subcommittee. And I'm going to try and do it from here if I can. If my eyesight does it, I may have to go a bit closer to the screen. Now, before I start, I have to say I have a very strong English accent. If I say something that doesn't come across or I use an idiom that's not understandable, please stop me and I will try and do better. So we have got this presentation this evening. This is one of a long series of presentations we anticipate on a monthly basis, and each one is going to be an update. It's not an overall overview. So we hope to be able to go through this relatively quickly, not going over very much of what has happened previously. There has been a large packet of this presentation made available to the public and also to all members of this board. So Dora, if we can just move forward, please. Just remind everybody that we are working at 550 Old Colchester Road, the current site of the transfer station and public works. This is the site outlined so that you can see the general portions of the site. The main body of the site to the left of this image, to the west, is not usable, as you'll all recall, because it is capped landfill. So we're only working in the extreme right-hand side, eastern side of the site. Yes. Here is a detailed view of the site as it currently exists. Okay. And this is a view that shows the surrounding properties. I draw the board's attention to the request from the DPW Action Committee to progress purchase of the land from Eversource, which is immediately adjacent to the south of the site. Now, this is, I think, best described as for obvious strategic reasons, not required for the current plan, but for any other expansion, additional requirements the state may put upon us in the coming years, it will be extremely valuable. Thank you. So the way this project is moving forward is through a series of surveys to start with, to discover what hazards there are in removing the existing buildings, and then also, and I'll go into that in a minute, the environmental impact, the environmental situation. So the first item we've got here is the hazardous building materials survey report. Now, this is the first step that has to happen. This has taken place, and it is a discovery exercise to find out what hazardous materials there are and whether further investigation is required. Now, on the initial phase 1 survey, they did discover that there were hazardous materials that need to be covered. The primary one being asbestos. Now, The asbestos that has been discovered here is it's listed in the packet as chrysotile asbestos. The chrysotile asbestos is the old white asbestos. It was generally used for gaskets, seals, and high temperature things. It's not to be confused with the amphibole blue asbestos, which is highly dangerous. However, this material does have to be coped with and removed in appropriate manner. Having moved on from the hazardous materials, thank you, and we can move past this because I've just described that there. The next part of the exercise is an environmental study, and the objective of that is as obvious, is to look and see what is the current conditions of the land that we're about to use for this project. Thank you. So just recalling where we are, we're in the orange bounded box there, which is the it is the Public Works and Transfer Station site. Thank you. When you're reading the report, there are a number of terms that are used. Because they're all real tongue twisters, very often they are abbreviated. Highlighted here in red is an REC, which is a recognized environmental condition. Excuse me, that's right at the edge of my vision. Most of the items here, they're on the list here. The correct HREC were not found, so there's no action that is required. But there are some items which were discovered in the phase 1, which have to be resolved. And I think the next slide is more helpful. So the biggest problem that was discovered in the phase 1 was the fact that there are some USTs, underground storage tanks. Now, these are underground storage tanks for fuel. They perhaps have been removed and backfilled, but there's no documentation available in the town to show whether that has happened or not. Therefore, there has to be some borings or excavation to make sure that those are properly either had been removed and properly consolidated or filled and capped, or whatever's happened to them. That has to be discovered. Now, can you move to the next slide, please? So there are some soil borings, and then which were happening this week. So I think there were 2 events this week when the contractors for which I thought I had here. Excuse me 1 second. Yes, the contractors for Langen were there this week doing the borings. We do not have a report yet. There will also be some monitoring wells which are put into place so that they can see any side movement of contaminants. Okay, so that's the state of play with the, move on to the next slide, please. That just repeats the information we just saw. And then if you could click forward to the grey one, please. So having looked at what's been happening for the environmental studies, we, at our last meeting, received for the Department of Public Works Action Committee, we received for the first time a proposal or series of proposals for what the new building would look like. So shown on the screen at the moment is the preferred elevation and facade for the new DPW works. This is a view from the rear of the building, not the street view. So it's from the rear of the building. Or if we could go back 2 slides, please. Having now we know what it looks like, now we can go and look at it and see in a bit more detail what's happening on screen. So I'm just going to go up to the screen here so that people can see. This area here is the building that we were just looking at with a notional view looking that way. So we were looking at, you might call the back of the garage. This is Old Colchester Road here. The site oriented north is this way. North is to the right-hand side of the screen. More up. Here is the main building. Here are the garages. These squiggly spaghetti lines here, they are showing the vehicle movement paths as they come in off Old Colchester Road and pass through either the garage, around the side of it, or moving forward into the rear of the site where they would be fueling or getting salt in the wintertime. The left-hand side of the screen here is the transfer station, and there's a separation between the DPW works and the transfer station. And the idea is for that to be as separate as is practical, so that there is to minimize any interaction between the public on the left-hand side and the DPW vehicle movements on the right-hand side. Now, I can't emphasize enough, and I know Mal looked at on a previous presentation, he kept saying this is preliminary. So this is not fixed in stone. The rear building here.
And actually, David, before we move on, just to emphasize that point for the public, these, as they were presented to the DPW Action Committee, have actually been sent back to the architect because we have noticed several design and functional flaws in them. So these are not in any way final drawings. So these are just to kind of give everybody an idea of what it may look like, but these are not final drawings.
And thank you. Thank you. And to that point, one of the biggest things that this drawing does, as opposed to getting into fine detail, what it does is it shows that it is completely possible to fit a functioning DPW and transfer station onto the existing site. It all can be done with safe turning and turning circles and vehicle movements. Now, whether the kennel ends up being there, whether it's in that orientation, whether the salt shed is on one side or the other side, or the fueling station is here or there, those are all details which will be discussed in the coming months. But so what you're seeing now is a snapshot of the first view that the committee had, as Keith said, that has already gone back for the suggested changes. If we could move forward, please. So when we were looking at that building, we saw a picture a few minutes ago of the grey clad building, and this is generally what it's going to look like inside if this is the plan that's followed. So you've got basically garage on this side, offices on that side. Now this is oriented now the other way around. So now this is the perhaps main office. Old Colchester Road is down here. Now, it's very important not to get hung up on what the actual designations are for each of these individual arenas, which is possible to see if you were to blow up the PDF that you got in the packet. These are what you might call volumetric exercise. What rooms do we need? How much space do we need? Whether it works out exactly as this is laid out, that's needs to be decided by the committee in conjunction with the DPW itself to make sure that the workers there have the facility that they need. So they're the experts on what's necessary within the building itself. If we can move forward, please. One of the big functions that happens on that site is the kennel, and there has been quite naturally interest in how the kennel is laid out. There are a couple of proposals. Or if we just move forward to the next one as well. Perhaps back one then.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so and here is another view of the kennel oriented a different way. And the idea is if we could, sorry, Dora, if you can go back to the first picture of the kennel, up one, I think. There we go. So there we've got a situation where we have got basically three zones. A heated zone, which is up to current state standards. A outdoor run, outdoor pen for each individual dog or animal, and then a enclosed area where they can run and exercise all in a safe way. Now, how this building gets oriented is really dependent a little bit on the site and other considerations. But this one. Next panel, please. Next slide, please, Tori. All that design, one or the other, are the current favorable. We can move forward, please. So we saw earlier the configuration of the outside of the building. That is just a representation of what it could be. There are other materials that could be used. The intention at this stage is that it should be done in blockwork and masonry to be highly durable and to not have metal paneling, certainly not metal paneling that goes down to ground level because of the problems you have with vehicle damage and just general longevity. So the preference will be for it to be masonry and block. So that ends the presentation as far as it goes. There is a lot of information available within the packet, which are listed in a series of appendices, which give fine detail of the reasoning behind what it is, what I've been saying today, the reason that the environmental surveys have been done the way they have been done, and the conclusions, therefore. Just to finish off before I ask any questions, this is the first view that we've all had of what the plan could be. It is not in any way fixed as to what it's going to be. I'm happy to take any questions from the board of selectmen.
At this point, I was just, it was good to know because I was always under the impression that we ran a quote unquote clean facility. And it's nice to know that, you know, outside of building materials, which were what was used at the time of the construction, that it appears as if, in fact, the site is clean. There, depending on when the tanks were moved, I know at one point in time, the fire marshal used to keep all those records. That's literally 6 fire marshals ago. But then the state took everything over. And what the state did with those records, I have no idea. But the town fire marshal used to do all the tank inspections and would, you know, verify on soil sampling. So whether or not the current fire marshal has any of those records, I don't know.
That's very good to know. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier on, there are test borings being done this week.
Yeah, and that should show.
That will show. Yeah, so we think it's clean. You'll know after we get the results from the test borings.
And it's not necessarily a question because I was at the meeting, so I got a really good view of the much larger presentation. But just some extra information for the selectmen and the public. You know, I really appreciate the time that the company has spent on this design because, you know, like David was saying, with the masonry and block work, they really have made an effort to make these buildings efficient, low maintenance, and they, you know, want these buildings to last 50, 60, 70 years. You know, so I really do appreciate that because it's going to have a heck of an upfront cost. You know, I'm appreciative that they are mindful of ongoing maintenance and trying to keep that as low as possible for the town. Because we're going to be, you know, paying for this for a very long time. Other than that, David, thank you very much. Excellent. I encourage everybody to read the appendix. There's a ton of great information in there. And please feel free to visit the DPW Action Committee on the third Mondays here at Town Hall. With that, anything else for this? Good. All right. We will move on to 8C. 8C, without objection, I would like to table personnel policies and procedures.
No objection.
Table.
Put it on there.
Thank you. That brings us to 9A. Approve the revised ballot questions. Sean, do you have 9A of it?
Thank you, Dan. I do. The proposed resolution be resolved that the Hebron Board of Selectmen approve the wording of the following two ballot questions for the November 4th, 2025 referendum vote as follows. Did I read them?
Yes, please. You do.
Wonderful. Question the first. Shall the town of Hebron adopt the amendments to the Hebron Town Charter as approved by the Board of Selectmen on July 10th, 2025, except for the specific amendment being voted on separately in question number 2? Yes or no? And question the second. Shall the town of Hebron adopt the amendment to the Hebron Town Charter to transition from an elected to an appointed town clerk as approved by the Board of Selectmen on July 10th, 2025? Yes or no?
All right. With that, is there any comment or discussion?
So I can just tell you, you guys approved this back in January. The only thing is when we went to the state of Connecticut, the change was the word shall. We had to add the word shall. So it's still just a clarification why it's back in front of you again.
No problem. And just clarification for the public, please look for these. The ballot is going to be quite large. So please make sure that you're looking on the front and the back of the ballot and paying special attention because these questions are very important. This document is the heart of government in the town of Hebron. And I know we may not think about town government that often, but town government affects your day-to-day lives a lot more than some of the other things. So please flip your ballots over and make sure that you answer appropriately. With that, Dan Larson.
Dan Larson, aye.
Office Chair.
No, it's your lie.
Tiffany Teal.
Tiffany Teal, aye.
Keith Pettit, aye. Thank you very much. That brings us to 9B. The town clerk's historic preservation grant application. Tiffany, if you would be so kind.
Sure. Move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen approve the application to the State of Connecticut, Connecticut State Library for the Historic Documents Preservation Grant in the amount of $5,000 and authorize Andrew J. Tierney, Town Manager, to apply for, accept, and receive the grant and sign any necessary documents.
Questions or comments? Okay. I would just like to thank the town staff because every grant that we put out there is tax dollars that you are not paying. So fantastic. Thank you. With that, all those in favor signify by saying aye, opposed nay, or abstentions. Dan?
Dan Larson, aye.
Sean?
Sean Fitzgerald, aye.
Tiffany?
Tiffany Teal, aye.
Keith Pettit, aye. And thank you very much. That brings us to 9C. Approve the Hebron Board of Ed SRO Memorandum of Understanding. I move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen approve the Hebron BOE SRO Program MOU and authorize Andrew J. Tierney as town manager to sign the agreement on behalf of the town as presented or amended. I only had one issue with it, and I'm not willing to stop the process for it. So I will just mention it under discussion, not as an amendment. Any other discussion or amendments?
This is essentially just a continuance of the existing, or is this a?
No. There was
only new agreement?
Not a fully new agreement, but there was some changes to state guidelines that required certain language to be in the memorandums.
Mhm.
So that's why we just got done doing RAM. When did we do RAM? A month ago?
Yeah.
A month ago. And now we are doing Hebron side.
Yep, or
So, but yes, essentially, life will continue as it was.
with your language.
Yes, the only thing that I had, and it will come up again during budget season, I'll raise it then. There is a portion where it directs, and I understand that this is because of how the police department is structured in the town of Hebron, that it has to be on the town budget. But I know we have spoken with Lori in the past about having an offsetting accounting entry on the Hebron Board of Ed budget so that it's appropriately shown under them. That's something, again, I'm not going to hold this up for that because I want to get that signed, and there's a lot of other more important things in that document than that, and we will address that when we get to budget season.
Mhm.
So, with that as presented, all those in favor signify by saying aye, opposed nay, or abstentions. Dan.
Dan Larson, aye.
Sean.
Sherrill, aye.
Tiffany.
Tiffany Teely, aye.
Keith Pettit, aye. Thank you very much. That brings us to 9E. Approve revision E.
D, you missed it.
That is because my handwriting is bigger than the font. Okay, I apologize. 9D, review budget from common CDC project. There's no motion for this, so any discussion or?
I didn't put a motion together because I didn't know, we really didn't have any conversations.
Yeah.
I'll start
Okay,
because that's what I do.
please.
I think we all agree that we need affordable housing. We are all in favor of affordable housing. The issue comes in as to how it is going to affect our current taxpayers. And I, at this point in time, have not been satisfied at all in knowing just exactly what the liability to the town is going to be. From what I can gather, they are looking at a $10,000 a year tax payment to the town for all of the units. Our expenses are going to far outweigh that, and that expense is going to be carried by the average taxpayer. I know I, for one, am about taxed out of this community that I've been in since 1977, when I bought my house, moved in 78. I will be carrying the same burden as people who make far greater than me. People said, oh, just move into the affordable housing. First off, the issues there are that A, I really don't want to move into the affordable housing. B, there is no guarantee at all that even if I were to make an application, that I would be successful in it. People say this is going to be great for Hebron residents that can move into that. There is utterly no guarantee that they will gain a spot because it'll go through a state lottery type system, not necessarily controlled by the town or even administered by the town. So before I will sign on to this, is I need to know exactly how this is going to affect our taxpayers. What is the end tax rate increase going to be that our taxpayers will have to burden or bear? We are looking at 25 one-bedroom units, 22 two-bedroom units, 2 3-bedroom units, 1 4-bedroom unit. There is one unit there that is going to be paying apparently full rate. They should be taxed at full rate in addition to the 10,000. So if that could somehow become more equitable for the town, I would like to see that happen. Hebron has basically got a residential tax base. Even our businesses suffer under the weight of taxes. And people are saying, well, this will allow those businesses to have potentially more employees. That is if they can survive the tax burden. I need to see some real numbers.
Oh,
You can go ahead. I'm collating, collecting them.
Yeah,
do you want me to go or you want to go?
I'll hop in really quick, because I, you do a great job at analyzing numbers a little bit better than I do. My mother is my North Star, and she has been building these projects for her entire professional career, and she's testified to the United States Senate on these topics. And so I know what this group is going through to get this project off the ground, because she runs into it in towns in Rhode Island all the time. And I do appreciate that. And as someone who grew up with an incredible, if not impossible, role model to live up to. I know what you're trying to do, and I appreciate it. My concern is capacity. And what do I mean by capacity? I mean that this is a four-person nonprofit with nobody drawing a salary and with no salaried staff on hand to help guide you through to get this project through to fruition. So in some cases, when this has happened, when my mom has financed certain projects, some nonprofits will bring on an actual development partner, not a funding partner, because Grow America is not a developer, they're a funder, but a development partner that can help you bring the building through to fruition and can provide some of the estimates and some of the figures that some of the folks here may be looking for. So I have some concerns on capacity. But beyond that, I also think it would be helpful before we make a decision if we could hear from the assessor just on, I don't know, I think it would be helpful for the assessor to crunch some numbers first. What does it look like now? And what would it look like with these units? And I want to be clear, I do want to grant an abatement in some way, but I need to feel a little bit more comfortable with the capacity. And I'd love to hear from the assessor about the land. And I just think more information is better, than not. So that's where I'm at right now.
More time? Okay.
I might not
All
even, I might not even speak. I apologize.
You do not have to.
I'm gonna take it in, and if it takes me weeks to come, but and at least I have the full force of my conviction behind what I say. I don't have a full force of conviction just yet.
Yeah, and I apologize. I am a numbers guy, working the vast majority of my, 30-year career in finance and procurement. So now, obviously, I'm not familiar with housing development. That is not my forte. So I am trusting some of these numbers. But then there are other numbers which I am familiar with. One of those being capital depreciation and capital offset. And I'm assuming that what is meant in the budget by that is replacement reserve, which is probably what I would call it if I didn't call it capital reserve. $20,000. I mean, just based off of my analysis of that number leads me to be shaky on the other ones, because analyzing the cost of this build, and again, just going off of the estimates they have for debt service of being the cost of the build, and my understanding of building repairs and fixed asset and movable asset repairs, $20,000 is not going to cut it. And so I feel that we are in a similar situation to kind of like we see with the WPCA, where, things are kept artificially low and there's a set aside, but the set aside is never enough to cover it. So when you get to the end of the period, there's this giant balloon payment, and who gets stuck with the balloon payment? Now, in the case of somebody like WPCA, it's the town, and that's understood because they're a government agency, we're a government agency, and it's a town asset. But this is not a town asset. This is a private business. And it worries me that I feel that a private business will not be sustainable past the 15-year mark. And when they're talking about 30 years and 40 years to meet their obligations for different programs, I don't know that they would make it on this, but this budget will, let me just say that, this budget will not make that timeline. Just appliance replacement itself would be $250,000 every 10 to 12 years. And if you multiply out 20,000, that is just barely going to cover appliance. That's not going to cover the roof. It's not going to cover driveway repairs. It's not going to cover railings. or ramps or concrete work or other things that deteriorate over time in New England. Not to mention that they've even identified themselves an annual shortfall of $151,000. I mean, their assumption is basically that 75% of the originating building cost would have to be grant, like fully paid off. Like, I just, I don't see this being a viable business plan. And without a viable business plan, I can't get behind any kind of real support for it, abatement or not. And I agree with you. Even if I was, on board with this moving forward, I don't know that I would do a fixed cost because that's something that increases the burden to the town over years as that cost stays the same and the cost of everything else in life goes up. I might be able to consider a percentage or something of that nature in line with the reduced percentages that are being pulled for rents, as you say. But I mean, at this point, I can't even. We are not the thing that is going to kill this project. Let me just put it to you that way. So at this point, I would think it would be detrimental for us to make a decision on it until the project actually has a viable way forward. That's my.
Would it be at all helpful if the assessor could provide figures on what an 8% would look like over five? I mean, would that be at all? Because that's, I want to also just go on the record too, and I know he's in my same party, but I feel like the governor has let municipalities down, and I'm not afraid to say that. If we had had a statewide law like Rhode Island does with how you can assess these properties, then it doesn't put municipalities in the decision of having to weigh X, Y, Z, right? Because it's set, it's 8% in Rhode Island. And I know we don't have that, and that's fine. No, I can take it up with him at a later date, I guess. But would it be at all helpful to see what those figures would look like from the assessor if they could? Would that be?
I mean, I'll take any information that we can get, but again,
As long as the assessor can have real numbers and she may even state that this would be something more along the lines of a person who does these types of complex assessments, to know what the values are so that we know. I mean, right now we're not really even being told what the structures themselves are worth. We're just saying, we're going to give you a $10,000 per year tax. I don't even know what the house is going to look like.
well, the estimates from their budget is 12.5 million. And even I think that's obviously, a lot of that is not going to be in the final assessment of the site. But even if we just ballpark it and say 9 million is going to be the final value of the land and structure, and then multiply that by the 70% for assessment.
Okay, and then 5 years down
Yeah.
the road, what's our taxes going to look like 10 years down the road? We're going to be locked into a finite dollar amount, which is going to have less and less buying potential as it goes down the road. So instead of it following inflation and all, we're going to be actually losing money for from year one. What that percentage at 30 years out, what that $10,000 buying power is going to be even that much less.
Yeah, but honestly, $10,000 doesn't even matter.
Oh no, well, it's
I mean, we could make it. We could 100 like zero tax then. This project, this budget as presented, will fail, and we will have an empty building in 15 years.
or the town will have to assume it.
Well, I mean, we can't assume it if we made the taxes zero, it would just be sitting there as an eyesore deteriorating. Like I just, this budget does not work for me. I can't make a decision having seen this budget. The taxes are not the issue here. I don't think that this is a viable business venture.
Is there a way it could become viable for you? Is there a path?
Yeah, I mean, if they actually show grants that fill that shortfall of $151,000, not to mention, I mean, they're going to have to way overshoot that $151,000 a year. I mean, these numbers are not sustainable. Like I said, even the replacement reserve is not sustainable. So with that in mind, like, is that management fee? Because again, I'm not familiar with management fees, but that management fee looks very like 32.3. That looks very low to me. And I know that they talked about splitting it with another company, but you know what it's like going into business with friends and family. You're not
Yeah.
friends and family
I
for
mean,
very long.
5% is the standard because I'm looking at a presentation here from Wallingford. 5% is the standard, but I see your point. That is typically what you would budget that at. Just from a
I got to tell you, that replacement reserve, that is not what you would budget that at. I would easily budget that at 35. Like, and that makes me wonder about the other numbers. You know,
Well, just a question out of innocence. I'm not a financial. Is there wiggle room in? I remember from the presentation. I don't remember if there was a reason for having such a high proportion of 30 and 50%. Obviously, we're looking to keep it as affordable as possible for as many as possible. Is there wiggle room in the assignment of the AMIs for the apartments? Again, I don't know. Again, not a builder. I fix elevators. Like realistic. Like I'm coming like as an innocent. I'm looking to be that blue collar, salt of the earth opinion here. I mean,
Sean, that could be a requirement by the state. I mean, it depends. I mean, I guess for wanting further information, because I want further information, just to do our due diligence.
right.
I think it would be also helpful to know, like the grants, exactly what they're being used for, have that itemized list. But, it may be their preference to do it that way, or the some state grants, for example, some federal grants, for example, can come in and say, you have to have X number of units be 50 to 80% AMI. So I think in some cases, it really depends on where that funding is coming from, or it's a personal choice by the developer. I don't know if that's helpful.
yeah, because the
Well,
the $7.5 million for DOH funding, I'm sure that comes with plenty of strings.
so you have to have those lower percentages as well. Okay.
Well, I don't know the specifics of the contract, but I'm sure it comes with plenty of strings.
If anyone has that information during public comment, I mean, if you could, just for interest's sake, I mean, I just trying to, I mean, jumping those 30s up to the 60s, even at the 90% is another 75,000 in rent per year.
Right.
Which
Makes a
is
huge
significant difference.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
I don't know. Again, I'm trying to temper what sounds very harsh. Just to reiterate, we are for the project. We're just trying to make it work, right? We're just trying to make it work. So I'm just ballparking. So I apologize.
Would the assessor be able to pull those figures for us or at least try to give us a sense of property value?
Yeah, we could base it
I
on,
don't know if she can do projections. I mean, that's kind of hard, but
Yeah,
could we?
Should be guessing.
You should
but,
be
I mean,
guessing,
it
but-
would
So it
be,
would be based on,
Yeah, just
even on
trying to,
past information.
yeah.
As I say, I think the taxpayers deserve to know how this is going to impact them. Quite literally, and I know even this last year, and we warned people, warned them that you were going to see a tax increase, and yet I've had a few people that have still come and said, I knew it was coming, but oh my God. And I don't want another one of that. To force out of town the very people who have helped to make this town, that's not fair or right either.
On the flip side, this project could help people stay in town, right? So,
Well,
I mean,
Only if they
Some.
were able to gain access, if they decided that, yes, I would like to move into there,
Sure.
and then B, if they were chosen.
right. No, I know. I know.
So somebody, I mean, the chances of being accepted would probably, I mean, there's nothing that says that Hebron residents would have first,
No,
first
that's
dibs.
illegal.
So it's all gonna go into a jar, and how those names would get pulled, I don't have a clue. But our taxpayers, our constituents, they need to know. They need these answers. It's not that anybody is against the project, but they just need to know what to expect, and rightfully so.
I mean, would it be helpful as well? Because it sounds like what I'm hearing from everybody is we just want some more information.
Need more
we just want more
information.
information. Would it also be helpful to see if there's any kind of like construction timeline or anything like that? Because I think that's somewhere I'm getting stuck too, because I mean, 12.5 million, I don't think is enough to build in this current environment of inflation.
How about the new codes? But
So I don't know. If that
Not
would
if they include elevators.
how do they include health?
You're
So
so,
that's 11 million there.
no, but it's $1 million for elevators.
I mean, maybe that's something that would help as well. It just sounds like we need a lot of information. So I think, for me, whatever I could see from the assessor would be helpful. I know they're just guesses, but it could help. It could help some of us here. So,
Okay. Without any further comments, we're ready to move on. Okay. That will bring us to 9E, approve revisions to Administrative Secretary 3, land use. And Mr. Larson, if you would please, sir.
Okay. Move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen approve the Administrative Secretary 3 for the Land Use Department job description as presented or amended.
I do have an amendment. Any discussion before the amendment?
Now, I just trying to get a question. Page 3, the preferred qualifications, the College of Finance. Can you just explain what that is?
Yeah, it was or. It wasn't college, it was college or finance
Oh,
experience.
apologize.
That's okay. That's what my handwriting is terrible. No, my handwriting is
I'm
terrible.
like, there's a college of finance.
Every conversation.
No.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, that was an or. No, that was if they had college courses because on the original submission, it was finance experience,
Yes.
right? So either finance college credit or finance work experience
Okay.
under special. Yeah, no, that's all right, because I also had very bad handwriting. I don't think you saw where I said either. So you took it out of both. I need one put back in.
Okay.
So other duties as required, you took it out of the top and the bottom, leave it in the bottom. So like on
Which page?
page, all right, oh, that's okay. Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Dan's keeping me honest. So on page 2,
Mhm.
under other functions, so you took it out at the very top of page 2 where you say perform special assignment studies, you scratch that one. I'm good with that. But under other functions, I need you to leave perform similar or related work as required. Those are duplicates of each other. I just wanted you to take one out, not both. So put the bottom one back in. And I have
Put
this,
it back in other functions.
other functions.
Not in
Yep.
essential function.
correct.
Okay.
And I have the same comment for the other one because I had the same.
Okay.
That's my fault. I should have given you types.
That's all right. So we can still vote and amend it with those amendments.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
I did read it.
So,
Mostly grammatical.
with those,
Amendments.
yep, you're good with adding those to the motion? We're good with adding those to the motion?
Yeah.
Board clerk, are we good with adding those? Yes. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Dan Larson.
Dale Larson, aye.
Sean Fitzgerald.
Sean Fitzgerald, aye.
Tiffany Teal.
Tiffany Teely, aye.
Keith Pettit, aye. Thank you very much. That brings us to 9F, approve revisions to Administrative Secretary, Office of the Town Manager. Sean, if you would.
Following Keith's notes, I move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen approve the Administrative Secretary Office of the Town Manager job description as presented or amended.
So same amendment.
Gotcha.
You got rid of both of them. I just need one of them, other duties as required or whatever it says. And I think everything else on that I was good with.
Mhm.
Was there any discussion for anybody else?
Nope, you caught the typos that I saw, so I'm good.
Yes. That brings us to, as amended?
As amended.
As amended.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye, opposed nay, or abstentions. Dan,
Dale Larson, aye.
Sean,
Sean Fitzgerald, aye.
Tiffany,
Tiffany Teely, aye.
Keith Pettit, aye. Thank you very much. That brings us to 9G, discuss potential ordinance prohibiting wild and exotic animals. And let me get down to that section. Still going.
No, you're there. That's the ordinance right there. Let's go back up.
We do not have a motion.
No.
No.
Okay, discussion only.
Want me to lead?
Please, go ahead.
All right. So I appreciate Michael's comments tonight. I think the Hebron Lions is an extraordinary organization. And I think agricultural fairs are great. And I think I said that 2 weeks ago. And so when I was talking about exploitation, I was talking about shows in general, like the ones with the sea lions, I find to be exploiting those animals. And unfortunately, my opinion won't change on that. And I think we can just agree to disagree. It's something I feel very strongly. And I wish it was just me that had the problem with it, right? But the reality is I had a lot of texts, I had a lot of emails. Town manager's office got some phone calls about it. So, in these roles, we have to sometimes bring forward things that our constituents have concerns about, and this is what we do. And it's not always popular with everybody, but this is the job I signed up for. So I think that the fair is amazing, and I think it's so amazing. I've even done a horse show or two when I used to ride. I think it's so amazing that you don't really need wild animal shows to add to the fair. That's just my personal opinion. But that being said, I think I was quite moved by Michael's comments about collaborating with us more in the future. And so what I would say is that I think this is just a really well-written ordinance. And so I think we could use it for like other ordinances we may have, just because I think it's well-written on other topics. I just think it's really good. And I think if we didn't want to move forward with it at this time, I would definitely understand. It's something that I feel very strongly about. And I think, some fights are worth having and some conversations are worth having. So, but I do think it's really well written what the city put together, actually. I think it's really well written. Just as an ordinance in general.
Yep.
I just think it's really good.
Please.
Yeah.
Sure. I feel that this would eliminate a crucial learning environment for people who want to learn about different wildlife. And I'm looking at not only, of course, and I was not even fair to see the sea life or the sea lions, but I've also been involved with AHM. I actually used to be involved when Steve Fish used to run the nature center, which used to be at the log cabin before the fairgrounds took it over and made it their regional office. There used to have butterflies in there. They used to have amphibians in there. There was a lot of wildlife, and it was all there for education Kids loved it and they learned a lot. We have at AHM, you have the birds of prey exhibit, and then some of the other wildlife that they've brought into there. Again, it is fantastic. It allows people to see and learn about different forms of life that are our neighbors, inhabit our planet. The fairs or shows is a major funding event that a lot of rehabilitators use to cover the expenses of the keeping of their animals. As he stated, they're there because they somehow were injured, usually because of somebody that some person did, whether it was a prop on a boat in thing with sea lions or what have you, without means for them to help to create income. Their only other option is to euthanize these animals, and that to me would be a crime. I've talked with a lot of people. They enjoy the sea lions and learn more about them. So it is an educational thing that many people left in a positive action. My other fear is, as a board of select person, I would much rather bring this to them and say we've had people themselves can approach the Lions Club. But I just don't want to overstep as a board of select person trying to micromanage other agencies. And that's my big fear. As it is, we have so much governance, what I would call government overreach, trying to infuse their thoughts or actions on our everyday lives. Maybe it's because I'm just getting old, but I'm getting a little tired sometimes of the government telling me what I can and can't do, and watch and can't watch, and I guess I just get ornery. That's I don't support these kinds of ordinances. I can see too much potential of them affecting things that had not been intentionally affected, that we then either have to backpedal or try to make exceptions for. I don't support this kind of ordinance.
I'm much more middle of the road. Obviously swayed by the public comment. The Lions are amazing. I don't know if the force of law is required yet. I mean, certainly talking to the Lions to make sure that it's conscientious. Trying to think of the word. Not Barnum and Bailey, obviously.
Right.
Like those of us of a certain age have ridden elephants in Hartford at Barnum and Bailey. I did. The elephant had a much worse time than I did. This we know. And I know one of the exhibits. It's fun. It depends, because depending on the view of it, the exotic zoo exhibit, I was like, "Ooh, that was kind of strange," but my kids loved it because they got to see a tiger. The tiger wasn't terribly happy. Like they don't naturally live in cages in the wild, I believe. Never met one in the wild. I don't know that we should draft an ordinance yet. Certainly conversations going forward, because I don't know. This is why I try not to talk too early, because I don't have strong convictions either way. I want the animals to be happy, healthy, safe, rehabilitated. I don't want them miserable and pawed by children in the name of education. So I'm middle of the road. Like I don't really support either way necessarily. I apologize for the lack of excitement in my speech.
I think I would say too, if I can I forgot to make this point earlier, but I think, for me, and this is just me speaking as a person, but if people want to be educated about these creatures, I mean, accredited sanctuaries and organizations exist for a reason. And that's where you can go. People who, they're accredited. Their job is to take care of these animals, not to drive them to different places. And the only other thing I would add, and I mean, we don't have to decide on this tonight. It sounds like we kind of want to wait and see, which is totally fine. I would say it's not unique. The state of Massachusetts has banned it statewide. So you can't have this show in Massachusetts. You can't have it in California. You can't have it in Colorado. There are counties in Ohio that have outright banned all of these types of exhibitions, whether they say they're educational or not. So I just want to assure people it's not breaking new ground like a lot of other places have this kind of thing. And it doesn't mean we have to do it now, but I like Sean's idea to kind of have it in case we might need it in the future. You never know. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
No,
that's quite all right. It's another thing to think about. This is the fantastic thing about going last is that everything that I was going to say.
You are
So, as a proud Republican, I 100% agree with Dan. I do believe that smaller government is better government. And I do believe that there is a place in life for two things. One, which Mike so eloquently said, of being able to talk to each other. And let me tell you, I already had this talk because Mike lives 3 doors down from me. So, yeah. But, I also think that in America, yes, sometimes we need laws when it's not financially feasible for us to force behavior. But I think in this particular case, again, we're not at the point where we need additional ordinances and additional restrictions. I think that if people really honestly had a problem with it, that they would speak with their pocketbooks. And if the Lions saw, a corresponding decrease in years where they had these things, or if they received enough public blowback, that it would alter their course. I 100% agree with Mike. The Lions are amazingly reasonable people. The Gerkeys are my neighbors, very active in the Lions. It is a fantastic organization with really fantastic people that give of themselves all year long. I know that the Hebron Fair kind of gets all the bells and whistles and hoopla, but the Lions do things around town nonstop all year long. He listed off a bunch of them. They also do, vision for the kids, and they donate money for eyeglasses for kids. I mean, there's just so many programs where they give back. I remember my first year in Hebron, we had literally just moved in. I mean, we had been in the house, 6 months, and 4th of July comes around, and the Hebrons did their free fireworks display. And we see on Facebook a bunch of stuff of like, oh, it was only 10 minutes long, naysayers. And I'm like, never have I been in a town where the town has a free, that it doesn't cost the taxpayers anything, fireworks show. Like, I mean, anything that I don't have to pay taxes for, fantastic. So, I applaud the Lions for all that they do. And I think that this is a conversation that could be had with them in a less formal manner than having to go putting ordinances out. And that's my piece.
I would like to add along that same line, the Lions are very approachable, and rather than people demanding that we take legal action, approach the Lions. If you got a number of people that have a similar viewpoint, talk with them and explain your issues and, start a dialogue. Sometimes look at us as the mommies and daddies, and it's like, no, that's not our job to be the mommies and daddies. Put the big boy, big girl pants on, and if you have an issue with an organization, talk to them.
And I guarantee you one of them lives in your neighborhood. As there's Lions all across town. You may not even know that you're 2 doors down from one. They are fantastic people, and they usually do it without a whole bunch of, applause. And I couldn't speak more highly of their organization or of the volunteers that contribute their time in Hebron for it. Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
That brings us to item 9H, draft agenda. If you have any additions or anything to it, please let Dory know prior to the Friday before the next meeting. That brings us to 9I, the grant for the registrar. Do we have a motion ready for that?
Do we have a motion?
No, but I can give you this, and we could be creative to get it done tonight. It, like I said, unfortunately I was out of the office with family
That is
situation.
quite all right. While our resident communications expert is doing that, do we mind if we move on to approval of minutes and we'll come back? Okay,
Yeah, sure.
so we'll do 10A, approval of minutes. I'll skip you for that. Oh, you're the best. Move that the Board of Selectmen approve the following consent agenda items and motions contained therein as if individually adopted. The special meeting minutes from September 11th, 2025, and the regular meeting minutes also from September 11th, 2025. Does anybody have any discussion or modifications to those? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye, opposed nay, or abstentions. Dan Larson. Dan Larson, aye. Sean Fitzgerald.
Sean Fitzgerald, aye.
Tiffany Tealy,
And Keith Pettit, aye. Thank you very much.
which of course is on right that fast. How much are we getting?
It's,
It's not like 8,000.
so I highlighted it. $8,502.90.
Precise.
Fantastic.
All right, I think I've got something that'll work.
Okay, go for it,
You guys want me to read it?
please.
Move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen approve a grant from the Connecticut Secretary of the State's Office for early voting in the amount of $8,502.95 and authorize Andrew J. Tierney, Town Manager, to apply for, accept, and receive the grant and sign any necessary documents.
Excellent. That was really
I'm
good.
sorry I wrote on your thing.
That's quite all right.
I'm sorry I took your pen.
That's all right. Handwriting is better than mine. Apparently. I'm sorry. I say Tourette's again. It's horrible. All those in discussion. Again, you know how I feel about grants.
Right?
Yeah.
Any money we can get from elsewhere, love it.
So just quickly, and I don't know for whatever reason, but it's happening more than not. We're getting them,
Great.
and before you're gonna have the deadline before we have another meeting. So unfortunately, I know you guys don't like to have to jump on some of this stuff, but it's beneficial to the town.
Mhm.
And Danny, I think it was a while back when you were the chairman. I think they made a provision that we could even move forward as long as there was no monetary amount
Yes.
from the town if it was in the best interest. But we try to be transparent and get everything in front of the Board of Selectmen. So thanks for. I'm sorry I didn't have this motion written, but thank you for jumping on it.
No problem. Any other discussion?
Right. Money for early voting. I love early voting.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
great.
early voting.
You know, that's, we can't give everyone a day off. We can have them vote.
Yep,
These leading up to it's
completely agree.
and if we can make it free for the town, or certainly cover most of the costs from the looks of the grant proposal.
Yeah, because the early voting is a significant cost. I mean, that's a lot of days with a lot of volunteers and volunteers with small monetary amounts.
And if we can get additional 5%, 10% of the town to come out, it's worth the money.
Yes, definitely. All those in favor signify by aye. Oh, no, okay. Sorry, I thought you had discussion. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye, opposed nay, or abstentions. Dan Larson. Dan Larson, aye. Sean Fitzgerald.
Sean Fitzgerald, aye.
Tiffany Tealy.
Tiffany Tealy, aye.
Keith Pettit, aye. Thank you very much. AHM Youth Services Liaison Report.
I don't have anything for that, but I'll jump to the Board of Ed really quickly. The Board of Education celebrated their students who won the National Invention Convention. Hebron came in first, second, and third in the country. So clean sweep, which is they also celebrated Maddie DeCesare, who won an award for Connecticut History Day. And currently the Board of Ed is talking about switching their meeting days to better align with RAM and families with kids in the school system because they're having, issues with, everybody wants the same days in town for meetings. So they're working through that right now.
Yes.
That's what I got.
All right. Board of Finance.
I have nothing. They met tonight.
Excellent. We heard some of it. All right. Land acquisition. We actually did meet since last time. So they spoke on a couple of different pieces of land, which Matt had previously, I think, he left. Okay. Matt had previously brought before us because we were paying for assessments of the properties. So we're familiar with the Simeola and the I don't know. I was there and I don't remember. How are you going to remember? Anyways, the two properties that were brought before us for assessment. They met, discussed both the pluses and minuses of them, and they were writing up a recommendation to send to the Board of Selectmen. Have we gotten the email on that?
Yep.
We did get the email.
No, I don't, like I sent it to you, but I got it.
Okay.
We're gonna put it on the next agenda.
So it is in your email somewhere.
He said he hasn't sent it to us yet.
I don't think I sent it out in an email yet. I received it. We were gonna add it to the
Oh, I
agenda.
thought Frank sent it to all of us. Maybe he just sent it to me.
Well, if he did, then he
Okay.
did.
All right.
Once again, I would-
Okay.
Based.
We will get it out to you. But they recommend acquiring both properties. I know when we were discussing the assessment, I had recommended one of the properties that I was quite familiar with because it's a fantastic acquisition of wetlands that continues a greenway that we already have some open space on. But there is a portion of that property that is also drier, and so could possibly be used for either passive or active recreation down the road. So I know that we have some available funds in our
Space Land Act.
well that too, but we also have a little bit of an excess in our unassigned fund balance right now. We've been kind of trying to keep that in the 18 range, and it's been creeping around.
Okay.
So I would be open to some sort of split with them because they are looking at multiple properties, and I don't know that they necessarily I think right now they're sitting at the 400,000 mark, and obviously when you're talking about multiple properties, that doesn't always go as far as we think it will go.
Did we ever receive, weren't they waiting for
Yes,
reimbursements from the state? Could that ever?
that's included in that 400,000.
Okay.
Yes. We had to finish putting up parking and signs at some existing properties around town, which they have completed now.
I believe it's completed.
Okay.
So, excuse me, to add to that, I think they were willing to, once again, try to fill out an application for these, but I want to go ahead and maybe move forward so they don't
Yes.
lose them with the possible potential.
Yeah.
And I think they would also try to see if it would fit the venue to get more grant money.
Yeah, there is another round of grants, and again, I wish Matt was still here, but that's all right. There's another round of grants coming out with DEEP, so that's another thing that may make their dollars go a little further. So, that will be coming up in future meetings, but just to recap, they are very much in favor of acquiring those two properties.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question? If it's not appropriate, just like slap my hand, but will we have a handle on exactly where the unassigned fund balance is in time to make these decisions? Because the audits are still ongoing, correct?
The audit's still ongoing, yeah. I have to ask Lori about that, but we should be able to give you a ballpark.
Yeah, she'll probably have an estimate within 50 or 100,
Okay.
and that's more than enough to put us.
No, it
in a
is. I just would like to know where it
I mean,
is.
she's not going to know the penny, but
Right. That's fine.
No, because we're being active we sent out more delinquent tax bills too. So we're going to try to get some of that. And then as soon as that deadline comes out, we're going to resend. So,
Okay.
So there's more money we could retrieve that one. That's what happened the last time that raised it up so high.
Right, yes.
Oh,
yeah, there's a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that is land acquisition. RAM BOE Claudia is not available for her report. So if nothing else, then we will go to the second portion of public comment. Is there any public comment? Please.
Rob Manchifico, 230 Jagger Lane, Hebron, also president of Common CDC. Thanks for all of your insightful questions and discussions. today, looking at the budget. While it's fresh in our mind, I'll address a few things, but what I'd like to propose would be to have another workshop with the Board of Selectmen, with our group, to go through all of these things in detail, because I think it's important that we discuss them. Each of the points that were brought up were
Yes.
valid. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to ask those questions. Grow America was also formerly known as the National Development Council. They are a full development partner as well as a funder. They do the syndication and the full development. In fact, the state of Connecticut wouldn't let us do this if we didn't have a development partner that would be our partner for 15 years. So when we do bring on a partner, that partner is there to guide the process of construction, operation for 15 years before they're vested out of that. So it gives a time period where you have a known entity that the state has approved, because the state wouldn't give us the funding if there wasn't someone there that has that. I really appreciate all of your questions and looking at the budget. One thing that wasn't probably readily apparent was there was a line item that said debt service coverage or contingency of $81,000. That's the additional reserve that we're required to keep to make sure that the lenders feel that we have enough money to deal with operational issues, capital improvements, replacement of appliances and things like that as well. So we take that 81, the 20, and the other 5, and you're looking at $105,000 a year that we're required to maintain at a minimum to make this work. So it does make the numbers work. As far as the shortfall, 150,000, that's going to be solved. In fact, our budget's already evolved since we've submitted it to you. We've talked with the Department of Housing Commissioner, Sela, and she said that rental assistance vouchers would be available. So Sean, your question about the mix of 30, 50, 60, what the state does is they look at the budget and the numbers and the operation, and they say, how can we provide a number of vouchers that would take someone that's paying a 30% rate and bring that up to a 80%, say, or whatever the number is. So there is a discussion with the state to do that, to make those numbers work for what the state goals are, but also really to make sure that the operation is going to be viable economically as well. So that is going to be addressed. We just showed the shortfall because that's where we were at. We didn't have a discussion about vouchers, and we haven't even had a discussion about some of the other grants that are also available that the state can provide that would reduce our loans and debt coverage that we have to carry. So that, again, gives us more operating freedom. So our partner is there for 15 years. After 15 years, the deal is actually restructured. Some of those loans get adjusted and things like that. Also, the state does help with issues related to revenue. So if we're having a problem with revenue, we can talk to the state about that. The state has a vested interest in seeing this be a success. So even if there were an issue, that it's not that we're just going to be an abandoned building and the town's just looking at blight. The state would be involved at that point to help work through those issues as well, if there were issues. But hopefully you can see that through the contingencies and other things that are in the budget, it does show a healthy margin that the loan providers require. A 1.3 debt coverage is required. Construction timeline was asked. It's usually about a year from the time we start. So let's say we were to apply at the beginning of next year and get the funding that we needed to do this. We could probably start late 26, early 27, potentially in operation by the end of 27. It's an aggressive goal, but it's a realistic one that I think can be done as we continue to move forward. There were questions about tax increases, what the tax burden is to the taxpayers here in Hebron. It's a very good question. There's a lot of studies that are done that talk about tax burdens, tax revenue. They talk about that it actually can bring revenue, increase the revenue in a town through more people frequenting businesses in town and basically bringing in more income to the town itself as well. There's a number of studies, and I'd love to discuss that further with the board. One other thing that was brought up that talked about a flat fee, saying that there's inflation and things like that. We wouldn't be averse to having that conversation, to maybe having some kind of an increase that maybe it's held at say whatever the number is, 10,000 for 5 years, and then we look at a 2 or 3% increase in years 6 and further through 6 through 30. So again, trying to keep up with inflation, not making it onerous on the taxes, but again, looking to say, how can we give back to the town? That's why we're doing this. We're not asking for 0. We started with a number of 10 because we said that's something that looks like it can work inside of the budget that we have. The number 10 is not a special number. If you said it was 10,001, we wouldn't be like, well, that's it. We're going to close up shop. So the discussion can be had as how we can structure that so that it does keep up with inflation possibly, but also work so that the operation of this can be successful. So I'd love to have that conversation and sit down in a workshop and have a discussion back and forth to work through all of this as well. So I appreciate the time and I'll yield the floor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any public comment? Online?
Yes, this is Althea Carr, 94 West Street.
Go ahead.
I truly appreciate the due diligence that the board is showing by the questioning that you've been doing. And I understand, that's of course your job. And we all want this to be a successful venture. I hope that questions, you've raised some excellent questions and I'm hoping that you will get those answers. And once you have them, that you will support the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Any other public comment online? That brings us to your favorite part of the report.
Everyone's favorite part. Move to adjourn the Hebron Board of Selectmen's meeting at 8:41 p.m. Not too shabby.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.